How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Elite Battle League channel. My name is Lionheart Plays. Today we're going to be bringing you Season 5's Week 3's Power Rankings. Again, just as a reminder to everybody, if you haven't been catching up on the Power Rankings for whatever reason, we're doing this on a weekly basis. Again, we're going to be doing everything to keep this video short because, again, the play-by-plays are going to be done on the weekly roundups that are hosted by Lonely Hermits, which you should definitely check them out. So if you are familiar with the Elite Battle League, and have not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do so now and automatically hit the thumbs up on this video because, well, the content is amazing. Not just this, but the weekly roundups, the top 5 plays and the fails and all that good stuff. With all that said and done and got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the power rankings now. So, starting off in the number 16 spot, we have the Raging Lake, coach of the Greater Manchester Greninjas. All right, not much to say here because they got swept. Again, for the third time in a row, they got swept. So not much to say there. We're going to go to move on. Number 15, we have Mike the Quick, coach of the Florida Rowlets. And I'm looking down because the rankings are on here on the phone. But the coach of the Florida Rowlets, Mike the Quick. Okay, I'm not going to lie. This battle was just filled with bad decisions all over the place. I don't know if he got freaked out with the Zygarde or something, but not going to lie, there was some bad battle decisions made here. And he almost got 6-0'd and whatnot, but still, I think the battle could have been done, could have gone differently had there have been some better battle decisions made. So this is why he is in the number 15 spot. Number 14, we have Landon, coach of the Iowa Incineroar. Again, very much like the number 15 spot, there could have been better decisions made here in this battle. Again, you'll be able to see the plays that were done and the breakdowns and everything in the weekly roundup. But based off of me looking at the battle here and everything, there definitely could have been some slightly better decisions made and whatnot. I'm not saying that it would have made a difference for the with the outcome. I'm not saying that at all. But with better decisions, it probably would have brought the scoreline a tad little bit closer. I think he put up a much better fight week 1 than he did in his previous weeks. Moving on to number 13, we have Jakey, coach of the Snowdonian Frostmoths. So, with Jakey, some of the hard switches that he was doing, some of them were okay. I can see where he was going with this, trying to outpredict his opponent and whatnot. I can see where he was going. And everything, but some of the decisions that he made, it caused a lot of too much unnecessary damage taking while he was hard switching. You could have let something sacrifice to get a couple more sacrifices to get everything played. I get he didn't want to sacrifice certain things, but at that point you kind of have to realize that if you're taking a lot of unnecessary damage and whatnot, you're kind of just gonna have to hit at that point. You kind of don't really have much of a choice. So again, like I said, I get where his decisions were coming from, but a lot of hard switching and whatnot caused a lot of unnecessary damage to be taken, and I feel like that ultimately helped his opponent get the victory over him. All right, coming up in the number 12 spot, we have Smoosh Moosh, who is the coach of the TJ Dropouts. So right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know that between number 12 and number 11, it was kind of hard to place as there were some things that occurred that you could basically say, that long story short, both of them could be interchangeable. But based on my notations from Smoosh's match, again, the play-by-plays are going to be done at the weekly roundups and whatnot. But there were a couple of questionable plays done by Smoosh that I'm wondering, if they were the best plays or not. But what really stood out to me the most was him saying, accidentally made a good move. And as we know, if you guys had seen the match with him and Pidge, you'll know that Pidge did, I believe it was work up or bulk up. I can't remember what move he used, but he used a stat boosting move, and he had accidentally he just randomly chose Hayes, and then he says, I accidentally made a good move. Now, because there wasn't a little bit of insight, whether this was a misplay or not, or whether he was just choosing moves, that part's unclear. But just based off the video itself, it may have seemed like he was just clicking moves and whatnot. I mean, it worked out. Don't get me wrong, it worked out in his favor at that moment. But overall, just in general, he just didn't have the momentum. He ultimately played right into his opponent's hands, and this is why he's in the number 12 spot. Moving on to number 11, we have Nate Tube. Again, like I was saying, you can make the argument that between Nate and Smoosh, that both of these players could be interchangeable as far as their rankings go. I do feel that Nate played a little bit better. He has some questionable movesets on some of his Pokemon, but I feel like Nate played a little bit better on the unlucky side of the RNG, if anything. But regardless, I think that Nate played better than Smoosh did for this week, and that's why we placed him over Smoosh. Now, going to the number 10 spot, we have It's Really Timmy B, the coach of the DC Starmies, and they went up against Metamaxis, the coach of the New York Tanks. This one was actually a pretty good match. It was my favorite match so far of the week, and if I'm not mistaken, it also won the Commissioner's Choice of Battle of the Week. It was a bloodbath on both sides, and it was a pretty close match in my opinion. Sadly, when it comes to this match, I don't think that Timmy played badly per se. I think he did the best he could. And it's evident in his matches and everything. It's just that the RNG, man. RNG is just something that just might as well be the week of RNGs, because his opponent getting those crits in the end. I think that those crits definitely mattered. But nevertheless, I think that Timmy played well despite everything. But he's in the number 12 spot. Coming up to number 9, we have the coach of the Texas Tyranitar, the Doorman, Alan. Now, the Doorman, this one's also fairly interesting, because if your opponent makes misplays, that's one thing. You have to exploit those misplays in order to be able to gain the advantage, and I feel like Alan did that. Sadly, however, he lost this matchup, and this match went to timer. Had it not been for the timer, I firmly believe that Texas would have won this match. His opponent made several misplays, and he did his part in taking advantage of those misplays and trying to readjust. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. And by the time everything happened, the timer had come up down to the last second, giving the win to their opponent, which happens to be the number 8 spot, the Montebello Morpicos, Mr. Toast. So they did secure the win, which is great for them, right? Because they had a good strat going in and everything. I think according to him, he was looking up some stuffs and everything, just trying to decide the best moves. And unfortunately, the system ended up choosing some moves for him because he ended up taking a little bit too long. And then there were other times where he definitely misplayed some moves. Definitely the fake out and everything. This is probably one of those rare instances where even though the opponent lost, he had better plays than his opponent, and whereas the opponent did win. This is probably another one where it was all sort of difficult to place because both of them had good strats to go in, with their battle and everything. Alan was able to exploit his misplays a little bit better than Montebello did. So this is another hard one where you could make the argument that they could be interchangeable with the rankings. But ultimately, we have Alan in number 9 and Mr. Toast in number 8. Moving on to number 7, we have Newtbox, who is the coach of the Carolina Garchomps. Now, with Nudie and his team, his team put in some work. It's definitely not the best team in the league. just looking at his draft and everything. But his team put in some work. That Hitmonchan came in clutch and everything, survived the heat crash at -2, which is strange because not for nothing, it should have died based on some calculations that we did. From what we hear, his Hitmonchan was maxed out in attack and speed, but I don't know. He lived the heat crash, so maybe there had to have been some defense investments. Regardless of whatever it was invested in, it came up real big for Carolina, racking up kills and everything. And of course, he had the RNG luck and burning, I believe it was the Copperajah, if I remember correctly, where he burned the Copperajah. The Copperajah wasn't able to do that much damage in turn, but still. Regardless, Nudie came up big with his Hitmonchan, and we have him in a number 7 spot. All right, moving on to number 6, we have Game Reviews, who is the coach of the Detroit Lux Rays. Now, Max, the thing I like about Max's plays here, I'm not going to lie, when you see the Inteleon, you got to switch out, right? But the thing that I like about Max's plays here is that he played real ballsy with his Blaziken, because his normal strats are normally Detect, do whatever he normally does to get the speed boost off, and then bounce, baton pass onto something that hits stronger and everything. He played more ballsy with the Blaziken, where he let it rack up its speed and everything, but he also got a couple kills on it and everything. So not like his usual strats, and it definitely kept his opponent, on the back foot a little bit, and he kept surprising him with it, thinking that he was going to switch out, and he ended up just attacking with it. So I like his plays with the Blaziken. It was ballsy and everything. But this is Max at the number 6 spot. And in the number 5, we have the coach of the New York Batangs, Metamaxis. Of course, when it comes to Metamaxis, we're talking about an experienced battler. We're talking about someone who knows this stuff. Tactical match as always. Not gonna lie though, this was a little bit of a bloodbath between both two opponents. We're talking Timmy B, who has his aggressive style of battling, and then we have the more tactical approach on Maxis. It was a pretty good battle, and like I said earlier in the rankings, this match won the Commissioner's Choice for Battle of the Week. That being said, I will definitely acknowledge that Maxis getting the crits with the Togekiss, the back-to-back crits was super lucky. And everything, that those crits definitely mattered. In the number 4 spot, we have Pokepidge, who is our commissioner and the coach of the Colchester Celtics. This one is pretty much straightforward. It was a pretty average match as far as scoreline goes, but as far as tactics goes, Pidge just shows how much of an experienced tactician he is. He had momentum throughout the entire match. He just outplayed his opponent through and through, and eventually securing his win. This was a good matchup for Pidge, and that's why he's in the number 4 spot. Coming up in number 3, we have the one, the only, the handsome, the beautiful, the legend, Humbeezy, coach of the Fort Sill Warriors. I be Humbeezy, I'm just messing. But yeah, so we, not much to say here. It was a sweep. We went up against the Raging Lake. We put ourselves in number 3 spot because had it been against a stronger opponent, it's something. And, a sweep is a sweep is a sweep, but I just feel like there were better matches for the rest of the week that involved better better plays and everything. Regardless, top 3 is no joke for the week's rankings, and we put ourselves in the number 3 spot. Now, coming up in number 2, we have Lonely Hermit, aka Josh, who is the coach of the LA Inferno. LA Inferno went up against a much stronger opponent than in the number 3. Still facing off an opponent with a handicap though, because we know the IR Incineroar have the penalty that unfortunately only allows them to bring forth Pokemon. However, the tactics that were involved, I feel, were a little bit more, that they just spit out a little bit more than number 3's did. We have the strats that he pulled off, and ultimately his legends never hit the field. It just felt like even with or without the penalty, I'm not too sure if it would have made much of a difference. Whether Landon had his full team or not, because of the amount of momentum that was on the side of the LA Inferno. Regardless, he had to start a plan going in. Got to respect the fact that he stuck with his plan, and he ended up with the win. Coming up on the number one spot for the week, we have Sly Guy, coach of the San Antonio Espers. San Antonio was able to definitely take advantage of his opponent's misplays because, as I mentioned before, his opponent, the Florida Rowlets, did not have the best battle decisions in mind. There were some questionable decisions made. The move sets, just no. However, when it comes to Sly, he was able to take advantage of his opponent. He was able to outmaneuver and nearly 6-0 his opponent. Of course, like we say, any Pokemon with their debuffs and everything put in a favorable position looks great and everything. I mean, it just happened to be the Zygarde in this case. But regardless, I think that Sly did a good job in saving that Zygarde and everything, because those stats as far as the kills go and everything are going to matter later on. But regardless, we have reached the end of the rankings for week 3. Real quick, guys, if you have not already done so, make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up, make it turn blue, hit the bell icon so that you too can be notified as to when more of these videos come up. And by more of these videos, of course, I'm talking about the weekly roundups hosted by Lonely Hermit, the top 5 fails hosted by Latin Luigi, the top 5 plays hosted by NateTube, and of course the power rankings that are hosted by me, all on the channel. The content is amazing, and of course, make sure you guys check out all of the coaches that are going to be in the description below. Check them all out, show them some love, check out their matches. If you haven't done so already, make sure you watch them, because this week was pretty interesting. This entire season has been pretty interesting. Without any further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and bounce on out of here. I will see you guys for week 4's rankings. Till then, Lionheart out.